A beautiful double play there for you. That last one that you heard was Neville D with Grootjaar. That's featuring King's College. What an amazing mix that is. And just before that, we had Corin saying Speak the Name. What a beautiful mix there. Big thank you to Cheryl for that one as well. Taking us to 1717 Central African time. Warm welcome to you. If it's the first time you tuned in, this is the CCFM Drive with Natasha and Romeo. And we're all about bringing you joy on your journey home.
Absolutely. Now, as I mentioned or alluded to, chatting to Erica. Now, she is our finance guru, of course, representing Just Money. And now, with the holiday season upon us, many of us find ourselves in a precarious financial position. The realization that the year is ending is accompanied by the stark awareness that budgets are stretched very thin. There's little money for gifts and family gatherings once we've paid our bills. Erica, a very good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Natasha. Thanks. How are you?
So great. Thank you. Of course, Romeo also joining the conversation on this Wellness Wednesday.
Good afternoon, Romeo.
Afternoon, Eric. It's always great to have you on the program.
Thanks.
Now, Erica, I've alluded to this, and I mean, this is a very uncomfortable conversation. I suppose any conversation that involves budgeting and accountability is a little bit uncomfortable. But just, getting into it, what are some tips, to creating a budget that is friendly and still unforgettable, during this holiday season?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few ways that we can actually ensure that we have a fabulous holiday, even though our budgets are stretched thin. And I think the important thing to note is that even if it seems as though there's a little bit of money in the bank, a lot of us are getting paid around about now, rather than the end of the month.
Yeah.
That means we've got to stretch our salary out till the end of January. So I think that's the first note to make, is that you've got to be thinking ahead, and especially if you've got kids that are school aged, for those expenses in January as well. So the idea is to minimize, or to plan maximally and spend minimally, if I can put it that way. So, I always think if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So
Yeah.
the more you can put in place in terms of what you'd like to do with your family, if you have one, or with your partner, or even just by yourself with friends,
Yeah.
the more thought and care that you can put into that, the more you're going to be able to stretch your money, because you're going to be able to look around at the kind of activities that are on offer, decide on the ones that are going to work for you, and then look for the good deals. So I think that's probably an initial tip, but it does definitely start with budgeting. So the main thing is work out a total amount that you can afford to spend. So don't even think about the fact that you've got gifts, perhaps food, because we can cover those issues and how to minimize expenditure on that. But the first starting point is to say, okay, I have got X amount. That is what I've got. I cannot spend further than that. So whatever it is that I'm going to, whether it's a New Year's Eve party or a Christmas bash with my friends and we're all clubbing in, whatever it may be, that is absolutely the maximum amount that I've got to spend. And from there, you're going to be able to plan so much better, because you'll be able to take that amount and say, right, this is how many gifts I've got that I need to buy that are really non-negotiables. Make a list of those. These are the things that I've been invited to. These are the things that I can afford to attend within the budget that I've got. And then there's a number of things, obviously, that we can do to stretch that money once we've categorized it.
I think it's, we are so pressured during this time, even gifting. I mean, I know people that don't generally do it because, budget doesn't allow, and that's completely okay. I think it's important not to break our backs, or our budget in this case, to try and live up to the expectations or the pressures, of society as we approach the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the thing about gifts is as well that quite often, most of us by a certain stage of life have realized, look, it's not actually about the material possessions. If we've got most of the things we need, and let's be honest, although South Africa is a third world country, many of us are blessed enough to have enough to get by. We don't need extras. And a lot of it is just junk that's going to end up cluttering up our garages, our wardrobes, our cupboards, that's just going to frustrate us ultimately. So the idea would be to give meaningful gifts. And honestly, there is nothing much more meaningful than a gift that somebody has made specifically for you. And whether that's that you sew or you bake or you put little plants, indigenous plants into little pots and hand paint them. Those handmade gifts are the things that really last. That when somebody picks it up, they're going to go, oh, I remember the year that Natasha gave me this. I'll never forget it. I know it's from Natasha because she made it for me. And those are so much more memorable and so much more special. And you can make it fun. You can get together with a group of friends or with the kids or with family members and make gifts together. And decorations are another one. I think the big temptation is to say, I've got guests coming over for dinner. I'm so excited. I don't want to use the same decorations that I had last year, and that's okay. Have a look at them, take stock first, because many of them will still be usable, but then make decorations, recycle materials like fabric. That really nice shwe fabric I always think is so fabulous. And if you go to fabric warehouses, you get that beautifully bright fabric. And because it's quite stiff, it can stand up on its own a little bit, paper, foil, recycled items. And again, pull together with family members. And you'll never, ever forget, this year, that year that we made this, that we were all together. And, we made these particular items. And particularly when we consider, I think one of the things that COVID really taught us, we can't take life for granted, and we can't take for granted that our loved ones are going to be around. So when we've got items that remind us of a day that we spent with someone, guaranteed those are going to be the things that matter so much to us in the time ahead. So that's why I also think homemade decor and decorations are absolutely gold, irreplaceable.
Yeah, we're chatting to Erica from Just Money and touching on how you can create a memorable festive season on a minimal budget. Romeo's going to touch on the shopping experience in a bit, but we're inviting you to join in on the conversation. Perhaps you've got a comment or two or a question for Erica before we say goodbye.
Couldn't agree with you anymore, Erica, on the tips that you shared on the first question. Moving towards the second one, how can we make our shopping experience go smoothly? Especially as we approach the festive season?
Planning, Romeo. It comes down to planning once again.
Yeah.
So you've got your budget, you've got your categories. Now you need to look at all of the shopping opportunities that there are online and in store and at markets. So let's say you've got a gift list. I'd say start with the ones, obviously, that because we've looked at the things that you can make yourself. Once you've worked out what you're not going to make yourself, shop around. And the earlier you start, the better. There's still 12 days before Christmas. Okay, if that fills you with panic, okay, maybe you haven't planned quite as well as you might have wanted to this year, but there's still 12 days. And, a lot of the online shops are going to still be able to deliver to you on time because we've really got a world-class online shopping opportunity here in South Africa. We've got amazing e-tailers. So compare prices online, even if it's via the grocery apps, because I often think the more practical gifts are the better ones. Often consumables like a nice body butter can be so much more valuable than something blingy.
Yeah.
But have a look around, do your price comparisons, go for practical, and then make a list of the things that are going to be the least expensive options amongst the e-tailers, amongst the community markets. And don't write off artisanal things. There's a lot of, there's a lot of sort of like Karma's vol Hoskenka, my terrible Afrikaans, you have to forgive me, but you've got those... Oh, thank you. 10 for effort, 0 for execution, but it's okay. We can live with that. But you've got all of those markets where it's just completely unique items. So do go along and have a look at those, and don't be scared to look at charity shops, because quite often you will find items that still have their swing tags on, items that someone's had in their cupboard that they bought that they just never ended up using, or a gift that someone's been given, heaven forbid, that they never ended up using, that has now made its way, for example, into a hospice shop. And you're now doing, you're supporting a worthwhile cause as well. So I think shopping around, having a look around, and then only buying what you can afford. As much as we would love each of us to spoil our friends and family, it's just not practical to spend 500 Rand per gift. It's just not. There might be certain people in our lives that we might want to do that with, but you've really got to restrict that and be reasonable and only buy what you can afford.
Absolutely. I think even with, the dinners and the lunches, we can easily cut on those, and keep it very, very intimate. And I suppose not as luxurious as we often would, just to try
Mm.
and accommodate the minimal budget that we spoke of.
Absolutely. And start by shopping for what's on special. If you're doing a dinner, don't commit to a dish until you've seen what's on special. If there's gammon going on special in bulk, great, go for that. You can also look at using less meat or making meat-free dishes. There are some outstanding vegan dishes online that can be really decadent, that
Yeah.
can still be within your budget. But yeah, have a look at what's seasonal, what's local, what's tasty, ingredients wise, and then build your recipe from there, rather than looking at traditional meals and saying,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I'm making, because that's where I think we get in trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Erica, I know we can't touch on bonuses just because of time, but
Mm,
perhaps we can get into it in our next conversation because I think that's a very important
sure.
one as well. Many people are
Mm,
receiving their 14th checks and or other bonuses. And so very important to touch on sort of how to handle that extra or additional income. But as I say, time is against us, and perhaps we can
mm,
touch on that in our next segment. Thank you so much for your
100%.
time. And where do our
Absolute
listeners
pleasure.
find this valuable information on the social media spaces?
Sure. So we are justmoney.co.za. We are on Facebook. We do a lot of posting on Facebook, but the best place to find the information is actually on our platform. You can log in, you can set up a profile, log in. You've got access to your credit report and credit record, which will really help you when you're preparing your budget as well. And then all of the articles, you can sign up for our newsletter. So it's all available there. And all of our social media links are also available via the platform at justmoney.co.za.
Fantastic. Erica, thank you so much for chatting to us and always so great just sharing the insight and the knowledge on how we can better manage our money, particularly in the festive season.
So good to be with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, keep well. Bye.
You too. Bye.
There you have it, Erica from Just Money. I believe you've got the website there, Mr. Rome, for anyone wanting